Before Caleb brings the introduction, Doug Lucas is going to make an introduction, and we're going to have a moment of prayer.
Yes, yes. Brother Glenn, can you start with a moment of prayer? Let's see.
So, Doug, you have to make sure you open up his microphone.
He disappeared.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him on here.
I think he dropped off. So let's give him a moment.
Okay.
He went to consult with God. He'll be back in a moment.
Okay. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm getting on right now, Brother Lucas.
Okay, thanks.
Let me get on.
Okay. All right, he's getting on as we speak here.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Is he on? I just saw him. Okay, there he is. Let's see. Okay, is he unmuted?
You should
Is
be
he
able
unmuted?
to. Brother Glenn, can you unmute your line?
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, very good. Are we ready for prayer?
Yes.
Let us just bow for a word of prayer. Father God, we come before you right now, giving you all the praise and glory for this opportunity that you have given to us, oh God, for your children, that they might be able to learn what they need and bless them in a way that they might be able to go and further their education in ways that are will magnify them and magnify you. Now, oh God, we ask that you would bless every presenter here today, every student here today, every parent here today, and that the information that will be shared will be uplifting and will be useful in the further and future endeavors that we undertake. Father God, we thank you for the men who have acted as coaches, that you would continue to strengthen them and that you would continue to give them wisdom as they lead this program. And we, in all that we do, want to give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Brother Glenn. I want to take a quick moment to welcome all of our cohort students, parents, our cohort partners, the panelists, and the brothers who are on this call. This is a great occasion for us to listen, to learn, to recommit to what we're trying to do here, which is to make sure that no one's left behind as it relates to developing a great college plan and having a good educational opportunity with the good work. So with that said, I want to introduce Caleb Dean, who is our senior, one of our Kappa League seniors in the cohort program, who is going to Morehouse. Very proud of him, and you can take it from here, Khalid. Let me see, are you off mute? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the ASA Guide Right College Planning Cohort meeting. My name is Caleb Dean and I'm a senior attending Wheeler High School in Marietta, Georgia. My participation in the ASA Guide Right College Planning Cohort program began in 2019. And thanks to the program, I've accepted my invitation to Morehouse College in the fall of 2021. I feel like this is a full circle moment because both Mr. Wynn and my grandmother both graduated from DeSalle High School in Chicago in 1974. And here I am presenting Mr. Wynn to you today. Now, it is my honor to present to some and introduce to others Mr. Mychal Wynn. Mychal Wynn is the author of 28 books on increasing student achievement, closing achievement gaps, and expanding college access. During his 30-year college career as an educator, Mr. Wynn taught students in traditional K-12 settings and in the Los Angeles County Juvenile Court Schools, the largest juvenile court school system in the United States. As an educational consultant, Mr. Wynn presents keynote addresses for national and local educational conferences, professional staff development, parenting seminars, and student presentations in schools and school districts throughout the United States and Bermuda. In 2007, Mr. Wynn founded the Foundation for Ensuring Access and Equity, a community-based organization that partners with the faith community, school districts, and post-secondary institutions to expand on post-secondary opportunities for all students, particularly students from marginalized communities and those who will be the first in their family to attend college. Their revolutionary curriculum-based college planning cohort program is successfully matching students across socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds with colleges, scholarships, and programs to increase on-time degree attainment and reduce student loan debt. Mr. Wynn, the first in his family to attend college, is a cum laude graduate of Northeastern University, a NACAC member. All microphones have been muted and cameras have been turned. Also, you may focus on your attention on Mr. Wynn's opening remarks and panels. I now turn the meeting over to Mr. Wynn for our opening presentation.
Thank you, Caleb, for the introduction. Let me take a moment to provide a context for tonight's discussion and a foundational upon which our program is based. After years of doing the work that Caleb has just covered for you, presenting staff development for teachers and parenting workshops throughout the country, I wrote a book about increasing Black male achievement. At that time, our oldest son was in preschool. After the birth of our second son, and during the time that they were both in elementary school, I wrote a book outlining how parents and teachers could nurture the gifts and talents of any student and begin the college conversation in elementary school. As our sons continued through middle school and high school, I wrote a series of books on college planning for middle school students, and then wrote a series of books on college planning for high school students. In 2006, our oldest son graduated from North Springs High School and received a full scholarship to attend Amherst College. In 2012, our youngest son graduated from North Springs High School and was selected as a 2012 Gates Millennium Scholar and enrolled at Morehouse College. In 2012, while serving as the education ministry leaders at Turner Chapel AME Church, my wife and I created the first cohort of students, many of whom went on to be awarded full scholarships. In 2014, we introduced our program to our first school district partner, and now we work with school districts in North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, and Florida. And then in 2018, we partnered with ASA GuideRight. Over the course of our program, since beginning at Turner Chapel, our students have been awarded over $100 million in scholarships and admission to highly competitive colleges throughout the country. This year, one of our cohort students from Walton High School was selected as a 2021 Rhodes Scholar and will be attending school at Oxford University in Oxford, England, in the fall, pursuing his PhD in mathematics. At the core of our program is assisting students in finding the right college fit and assisting parents in finding the right financial fit. Our program provides answers to questions that most parents and students don't even know that they don't know. On this particular slide, in the monthly presentation for one of our 10th grade students, she captures this issue that most of our students and parents are not going to receive college planning information from coaches or high school counselors. So our program is all about sharing the right information so that students conceptualize the right plans. And in this manner, our goals are very simple. We want students to get into the right school. We want parents to avoid student loan debt. So tonight, we brought together a panel of students who are currently in our program to talk about the work that's involved and the outcomes that they are pursuing. At our last meeting, we had a panel of college students who had come through our program. And so many of the students and the parents who are in this session tonight didn't attend that meeting. And Mr. Lucas felt that we should bring this information back. But what my wife and I said was, look, we don't want to replicate what we've already done. So Mr. Lucas is going to be able to provide a link to the recording of both of those meetings so that you can hear our college students. But what we felt was really important is that tonight you'll hear from the students who are currently in our program. So our final panel is going to be high school seniors who are going to be attending college on full scholarships in the fall. And I'm going to ask them questions about their journey so that you understand the end goal of what we're trying to achieve. Our first panel is going to be students in grades 8 through 11 who are currently in our program. Bryce Erskine is a Kappa Leaguer and a freshman at Kennesaw Mountain High School in Kennesaw, Georgia. Josiah Walker, who joined our program in September, is an 8th grader at Thurgood Marshall Middle School in St. Petersburg, Florida. Omar Dixon Jr., who began our program as a rising 9th grader, is now a high school sophomore attending Paulding County High School in Dallas, Georgia. And Joshua Salter, who began our program as a rising 9th grader, is currently a high school junior attending Maryville High School in Maryville, Indiana. So I'd ask my co-hosts to ensure that Joshua, Bryce, Omar, and Josiah, I'm going to get out of my presentation and I want their cameras and their microphones to be turned on. Okay, so my co-hosts, do I have all of their mics and cameras turned on? I really wanted to.
They should be able to unmute themselves now.
Okay,
and
so
turn on their
Josiah,
cameras.
Joshua, Omar, and Bryce. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not showing any of them on my screen.
Try it again.
All right, here they come. All right, I see two. I see Joshua and Omar. I don't see Josiah or Bryce.
I'm right here.
Okay, all right, maybe I just don't see you on my screen. Okay, great. So here we go. Josiah, my first question is to you. Tell us about how you have balanced your work in the cohort with your schoolwork and the effort that you have put into to create high quality monthly presentations.
All right. Well, first I'll introduce myself. I'm Josiah Walker. Sorry I couldn't turn my camera on. I don't know what happened, but hopefully we can get that fixed. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, that's weird. I don't know why it didn't work. It's not letting me start my video for some reason.
Okay, so Josiah, you go ahead and work on your camera. Let me go ahead and ask my first question of Omar. Omar, in our curriculum, we provide examples of the pathways that all of our students have taken and how they have navigated their way into college and scholarship opportunities. Talk to us about how you looked at those examples and how you have consciously pursued your course taking, your grades, and your test scores by setting goals for each of those.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself real quick. My name is Omar Dixon Jr. I go to Paulding County High School, and I'm a sophomore there. So in the cohort program, they do provide like lots of examples of students who went through the program. And for me, like one of the students who was like provided or shown in the curriculum was Kimberly Hadaway, and she actually attended the same school that I'm attending right now. So I look to her mainly for like setting goals and like inspiration and stuff. So like, for example, with my ACT score, I've like looked at her for like inspiration as to like what goal score should I achieve. And also in regards to like clubs and programs, she started one of the programs she started was an ACT club. So and like that was, she started that club because it was like she was pursuing her interests. So she served as an inspiration to me because I plan on starting a club next year based off of my interests. So that's how I was able to use the students provided in the curriculum for inspiration.
So Omar, since you mentioned ACT, what was the ACT score that you earned as a 10th grader that you were disappointed with?
26.
So as a point of reference for all parents and students who are in the session, most high school seniors in the country don't score 26 on the ACT. So for a 10th grader to not only score 26, but to be disappointed in that score, working toward a higher score, that's at the heart of our program in terms of developing strategies. Now, before I ask my next question, let me remind all of my panelists, I've already introduced you. I don't need you to introduce yourself again. I need you to just answer my question. So I'm gonna go to Joshua, who began our program. Oh, I'm sorry, before I go to Joshua, I'm gonna go to Bryce, because I want Bryce to tell us about the change you made and how you and your mom have worked together to create and implement a time management plan.
Mhm. So at the start of the program, I was unorganized and I really didn't know where to start. At the beginning of fall, my grades they were actually good, but towards the end of December, they started dropping because I didn't really know how to manage my time during school, the college program. I mean, school and the college program. In the beginning of January, I had asked my mom, can she help me get organized? And she went and found an app called Power Planner, which helps me. Which helps me put where I'm, which helps me organize where I can put my schoolwork and college. I mean, in the cohort assignments. And she also helped me with an app called Microsoft To Do List, which helps me remember the stuff that I have to do that day, and so I don't forget about my cohort assignments or schoolwork. Um, After she put me on that plan, my grades have been increased to A's and B's, and I stopped turning in my presentations late. Um, that's what helped me when my mom put me on with the plan.
Outstanding. So then, Joshua, um, some of the students in our program, they are having a problem completing the work, submitting the presentations. But in our program, we expect growth. So you're a high school junior, but your aunt signed you up for our high school, our program as a rising ninth grader. Talk about the growth that you've experienced and the lack of quality in the very beginning before you got to where you are now.
So I at this when I went.
No. This question is for Joshua.
Oh, my fault. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joshua.
You're fine. Okay, so my growth as a ninth grader, when I was first introduced to the program, I was very, like Bryce said, unorganized. I didn't really know where I wanted to go, what to do. I had an idea, but once my aunt got me involved, I really started to think about the school that I wanted to go to, because before college wasn't even, in middle school, college wasn't, I didn't even think about college. So once I got into the program, it started opening my eyes, and I understood. I was like, wow, this process is highly, highly important. And I'm just eternally grateful that she got me into this. And the growth that I've experienced is that I've really started to understand what exactly I'm looking for in a college. Even now, it's still changing. Like, I am thinking about going off. I was originally thinking about staying in state, but my goals have changed slightly. I'm not opposed to out of state colleges, and I'm actually started to look into a few more now. And as I just complete the programs and the presentations, I'm starting to realize that it's helping me pursue a college that is the right fit for me.
All right, great. So Josiah, even if you're having video problems, you can hear me okay. Am I right? Did we lose Josiah altogether?
No, I'm still here. I'm trying to find a way to fix up my camera and everything.
That's all right. Don't worry about it, because we're going to have to move on. We're going to have a couple more panels. So just respond to the question, because I want your response as an eighth grader. I mean, because one of the challenges that we see in some students is that they complain and say this is too much work. How have you been able to balance the work as an eighth grader?
Okay, so starting off, I do see where a lot of my friends, since I do have other people in the eighth grade cohort with me, mostly from my school, I see where they complain and why they complain. That, oh, it's too much work, I don't have time to do what I want. As eighth graders, we still haven't entered high school yet, so we don't know what that field is like. So some kids are trying to enjoy the time that they have in middle school. And I understand why, enjoy life, to do what you need to do. but you always need to keep thinking ahead. Think of the future in some way, shape, or form. And this cohort is a pure embodiment of thinking ahead in the future, while also catering and shaping yourself in the moment and times you have now. Because in 12th grade and senior year, you're not going to have time to try and do everything in this cohort and fix up and get a scholarship and boom, get that done. There are times, there are exceptions where that is possible, but that requires extremely specific circumstances. But anyway, focusing on me, I definitely had to adapt and transform my schedule and the way I do things as a result of me joining the cohort. At first, before I joined the cohort, my school schedule and my homework schedule was kind of rough, a little messed up. Sometimes I wouldn't have time to do what I want, or I just wouldn't have time to complete some of my homework. I have to move on to the next day. And I sometimes overworked myself, staying up really late, and it did affect me mentally. But when I enjoyed the cohort and I really got into the work, it gave me a reality check, and I had to really focus on think of new ways to manage my time and figure out what I can and can't do in certain amount of time. Since I had my homework as well to keep up on the weekends, I just couldn't go on the cohort, go do my cohort work on the weekends on like Sunday and Saturday, and try and do it every single day on that weekend, which would be optimal. But unfortunately, I do have other work in the way of that. So I had to think about it. I had to focus on what I could and couldn't do in a certain amount of days and certain amount of times. When I was working on a piece of homework, for example, maybe math homework, I knew I can't get this done in 30 or 40 minutes. I knew I would struggle for a lot longer. So therefore, I placed that later on in my schedule and focused on what I had to do at that point. And on the weekends, when I had to do my cohort work, I always place my cohort work on the weekends. I always do it on the weekends, no matter what. I never try to attempt it during the week because I know it's going to fail or my work is going to be half cut. It's not going to be worth presenting. So I would practice it on the weekends.
I gotta stop you right there. Let me summarize what the point that I hear you making, that I want to make sure that all of our parents and students, particularly here, is that you're an 8th grader who has consciously looked at the work and decided that the work is important enough for you to take actions and to take steps to make sure that it gets done. That's the key. Now, before I move on to my next panel, I want to ask a question of each of you, and I'm going to start with Bryce. At the core of our program, every month when you do the monthly presentations, it really is about what has become clear to you. After you have done the work and you have engaged in research about college and scholarships or self-reflective narratives that you've written about yourself. So answer this question for all the parents and students in our session. What has become clear to you since becoming involved in the program in September?
Something that's became clear to me is something that's became clear. It's a lot, but I'm trying to think of like one that's really impacted me.
You want me to give you a moment to self-reflect and come back to you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, Joshua, you look like you're ready to answer that question. What's become clear to you?
All right. So do you mean in just this year or overall the entire program?
Since you've been involved in the program.
So my college choices have changed quite a bit since I started in 9th grade. I really started to understand what I'm looking for in a college. And it's also taught me that my time management before was mediocre at best. And specifically this year, really taught me that I needed to step it up. So what I've done to improve on that is I've gotten a planner. So I've started to write down what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down what I'm going to do. And then I actually downloaded an app on my phone, which is called Forest. And it basically locks me out of every other app until the time limit that I've set, which is typically an hour or 2. And it basically lets me get everything that I want to get done in that time period. I use it all the time. It really helps me just focus and get through the assignments that I want to get done.
Outstanding. All right, Omar, what's become clear to you?
Okay, so before I entered this program and going into high school, I was very grade focused. Like I was like, I need all A's, and like I was only focused on grades. But like after I joined this program, I became aware of like all the other factors besides grades and test scores that colleges look at, like leadership and programs, community service. And then I also became aware of the fact that like you don't just join random programs, you join programs that will help you develop your gifts. And the things you have to look at when joining programs is how will this program help me develop my gifts, and how can I use my gifts through this program to serve others? So basically what I've done with that is I recently joined this program. It's called Medica Zone, and it's basically a program for high school students that allow you to get service hours um, and community service hours. And I joined, I applied to this program. It was the YouTube manager position. And because of my like interest in video editing, I knew that I would be able to like serve in that program to create videos and content, like medical content, and like promote the program so more students can like join it to get service hours. And another thing I've been doing like since I've learned that is I was working with another cohort student. Her name is Kira, and we're working on creating a video to promote the college planning cohort program. So I'd say I've learned a lot through this program, and this is like probably one of the most important things because it like changed my whole perspective on like college. Because as I said before, I was only focused on grades and test scores, but now I know that like there are other factors, and I need to like focus on those factors as well. And I need to,
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right, Josiah, what has become clear to you?
All right. Well, for me, I'm pretty similar to Omar in the way that earlier on, back in my middle school years and even my elementary school years, I only saw college as get good grades, get straight A's, get rewards, stuff like that, and then boom, you're in a good college. I get my life done, get a good job, stuff like that. I'm done. But no, the cohort has definitely opened my eyes in such a way that has made college research actually fun and engaging, also making it a discipline act that I make sure I need to do and update myself on. Thanks to the cohort, I've definitely learned way more about colleges than every teenager, every middle schooler should know. The sheer amount of types of colleges, what kinds of colleges you can go to, whether you should go in-state or out-state, things and variables like that that could really tilt your life in a position or in a way that it's going to change it amazingly. But focusing my thoughts back on the question, yeah, personally, the college process has become much clearer to me, and I'm thankful that I can actually see my way through the world that I want to go through. Now, I haven't 100% put my goals down or put my interest down on point. I do have a really good idea of what I am interested in and what I want to do. But once again, I still have to go through those 4 years of high school.
All right, Josiah, I got to cut you off again.
Sorry.
You answered the question. All right, Bryce, you've had time to self-reflect. What's become clear to you, Bryce?
Okay, so when I remember a question, and it was in the beginning of ninth grade, and one of my teachers had asked me what are my goals gonna be when I go farther into high school or even in college, and I said I really don't know. Only thing I really know is that I want to either be an engineer or I want to have a computer science major, but I really don't know what's gonna be what are my goals. But going through the modules, taking time to go through the modules and doing my presentations and finding out like my personality type and it's really like helped me the modules really, I mean, the cohort really helped me figure out who I am as a person, and has helped me decide, I mean, not everything, but at least a little bit of stuff that I will try and take on as I go further into high school and in college. That's something that is really made clear to me.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wynn,
Okay, so a remind, pardon me? Did you want to
I just
make a
have
final comment,
one
John?
last point that I just wanted to touch on for the
Yes.
people. The skills you learn in this cohort is you have to make sure that you really keep them because they're gonna help you during all aspects of life. The skills that you learn here are going to persist no matter where you go in life. As after college, at jobs, interviews, having these skills will really help you advance in whatever you want to do in life.
Outstanding. So a reminder to everyone who's with us, if you put your questions in the chat, the co-hosts are monitoring the questions. We're going to ask all of our panelists to stay with us to respond to questions at the end. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, introduce our next panel. My co-host is going to open up their microphones and their videos. And the first senior panel is going to be two students. Khalil, whose older sister, Kyra, came through our program as a high school student and has since graduated from Xavier University of Louisiana. And I believe Kyra is currently working for Google. Khalil, he began our program as an 11th grader, and he's now a senior at North Cobb High School in Kennesaw, Georgia. Tyra, whose older sister was in our program, started our program as a rising 9th grader, and she is now a high school senior at Collins Hills High School in Suwanee, Georgia. So Tyra and Khalil, just confirm for me that your mics are open, and I should be able to see your cameras. Yes. There you go. All right. Okay, first, Tyra. While most students in Georgia would consider being offered admission to Georgia Tech a major accomplishment, talk to us about some of your disappointments that even the most accomplished students have to deal with in this process.
Yes. So actually it started after I applied early decision to Rice University. That was my top choice college due to their combined medical program and baccalaureate program. But I was rejected from Rice University. And I also found out yesterday that I was rejected from UCLA. But because I developed a plan throughout the College Planning Cohorts program, I was able to still gain acceptance into Georgia Tech, which is the top college in the US for my major. So it just really goes to show that, like, even though I had, I did the work, I had the grades, it just went to show that, like, even though I had those things, there were still some colleges that felt as though, for whatever reason, my application was not of the best fit. But because I did the work, I was still able to gain access into some of the best colleges.
Outstanding. All right, Khalil. Tyra didn't mention the disappointment with not receiving the Dowdy or the Cheatham White Scholarship in North Carolina A&T. So why don't you start with that, Khalil? Tell us about that disappointment.
Well, for me, I wasn't really even planning to go to North Carolina A&T, but when I started going into it and I got the scholarship opportunities, I was suggested I should try going through with it, and I ended up becoming a semifinalist with the interview. And I got help with interviews from a bunch of different people, but when I eventually didn't get the scholarship, it was a disappointment, but it wasn't really too bad of a dig because I had a lot of backup. My main backup plan was to go to Xavier, which was my my main choice that I wanted to go, and I got accepted there, but with a full ride. So it was really just kind of, if I get the scholarship for A&T, then I'm going to end up going there. But if not, it's not too big of a disappointment because I still have the backup of going to Xavier. So it's still kind of a win for me either way.
So if I'm understanding the two of you correctly, while most students would consider not getting a full scholarship a huge disappointment and not being offered admission to their top choice college a huge disappointment, the work that you did prepared you for additional opportunities. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, so within that regard, Tyra, since you started our program as a rising ninth grader, tell us, describe some of the things that you did intentionally to build your resume throughout high school.
Yeah. So I really just made sure when I went into the ninth grade, I went into it head on. You know, there's one thing that Mr. Wynn said was to not leave any points on the table. So I took those classes for my 8th grade year, got the best grades that I could in those classes. So that way, when I went into high school, I could already have some of those credits that would boost my GPA and get me to that good standing in my class position. But not only with that, I made sure that I went and out and joined clubs and looked to gain leadership positions in whatever form possible, and to really take the time to use my summer to develop my college planning cohort program, to develop like my body of work in that, and to figure out what it was that I wanted to do throughout the next 3 years leading up to my college journey.
Outstanding. So Khalil, within that regard, talk to us about the classes that you took in high school that related directly to what you wanted to do. And then tell us about the conversation that you had with Mrs. Wynn about raising your ACT score.
Well, the classes I took were all just basically every single computer science class that I could take, since that's the major that I want to do. And I don't really remember the conversation, I'll be honest.
Oh, you don't remember the conversation with Mrs. Wynn where you got your ACT score and she told you need to take it again and get a 30? And she encouraged you and told you, Khalil, you can do that. Give me a 30. You don't remember that conversation, Khalil?
That sounds like something that could have happened.
All right, Khalil.
But I just, the whole ACT thing is honestly a blur. It was just a lot of studying and taking tests over and over again. And my brain seems to have repressed that, I think.
All right. Well, Khalil and Kyra, I want you all to stick around because I'm going to go to my senior panel and then we may have some questions for you then. All right. So let me share my screen again and let me introduce my senior panel. So what we're trying to do is to provide a context for all the parents and students on the trajectory that students have the opportunity to develop for themselves through the work and through their engagement. What you've heard from an 8th grader, a 9th grader, a 10th grader, an 11th grader, and you've heard from 2 of our seniors who both have great college opportunities. But again, when I started, what I said was our primary focus is on college fit for the student and financial fit for the parents. And so the 4 seniors that I'm going to ask some questions of are students who are all going to be attending college on full scholarships in the fall. Sydney is a triplet who joined our program as a high school sophomore, together with her 2 sisters. Sydney is a senior at Mount Perrin Christian School in Kennesaw, Georgia. And Sydney will be attending North Carolina A&T as a Dowdy Scholar. Jada joined our program as a high school junior. She's now a senior at South Cobb High School in Austell, Georgia, and will be attending North Carolina A&T in the fall as a Cheatham White Scholar. Jada was also offered full scholarships to full need-based scholarship to Mount Holyoke and full scholarship to Northeastern. Jaylon joined our program as a high school junior, and he's now a senior at Elite Scholars Academy in Jonesboro, Georgia, and he will be attending the University of Chicago in the fall on a full scholarship. And Faith joined our program as a high school sophomore. She's now a senior in the IB program at Marietta High School in Marietta, Georgia. She will also be attending the University of Chicago on a full need-based scholarship in the fall. Faith also was a finalist for the North Carolina A&T Dowdy and Cheatham White scholarships. She was a finalist for the University of Richmond Scholars Scholarship, and she currently is a finalist for the Ron Brown Scholars Program. So, if all the mics and cameras of my high school, I see 3. There we go. Now I see 4. Okay, so I want to get into the end because what you all represent the end just before college, which is where we heard from our college students. So I'm going to ask this question of both Faith and Sydney. The two of you joined our program as 10th graders. Talk to us about the effort that you have put into the work and developing the self-presentation that evolved into your senior year full scholarship opportunities. Faith and Sydney. Either one of you can you unmute your mics?
Yes, we can.
Okay, you go ahead, Sydney, you go first.
Okay. Well, when I entered the cohort as a sophomore, I was kind of taken aback by the amount of work and research that the Wynns were asking us to do. And actually, in the end, it definitely paid off because if I had not been able to do all the research that I did, I would have never found out about the Dowdy or Cheatham White Scholarship or all the other scholarship opportunities that were presented to me through HBCUs. I think as a sophomore, I really had to create a plan, especially focusing around my resume and grades, because I had good grades, but I knew that my resume was kind of weak. So I needed to focus on getting leadership positions in all the activities that I did and or creating leadership activities that had not previously been available to me. And I think that another thing that I did to really help present myself in a better package is really focusing on using my summers as good opportunities to find things to put on my resumes, whether that be internships or research programs or different things of that nature. I think I used my summers really well because I also had more time to complete all the work that I had to do over the summer and more time to focus on those activities without having to be also working on schoolwork at the same time.
Outstanding. Okay, Faith, same question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would say that I agree with everything that Sydney said. And just to piggyback a little bit on it, I think that the program has really helped me see what I want to focus on instead of just being all over the place. Like before sophomore year, I didn't really know, I was just all over the place with all of my interests and I wasn't able to correctly package myself. So I would say that being there in sophomore year really helped me prepare and also kind of determine what kind of leadership positions I wanted to do. I would admit in my sophomore year, I didn't necessarily take it the most seriously, but I would say that having at least the sophomore year experience helped me go in and really put all my effort into junior year and do well.
Outstanding. So Jaylon, I want to pick up on this. One of the excuses that we hear from students a lot is that they don't have opportunities to be involved in clubs and activities and build their resume in the way that Faith and Sydney just talked about. Rather than making those excuses, in your situation, you were in a situation where you were distance from your school. You didn't have an opportunity to participate in clubs and activities at your school. But so talk to us about how we were able to conceptualize a plan to maximize what you did at home and present that to the University of Chicago.
All right. So as you said, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to do extracurricular activities because of family issues. And so instead of just saying oh, I couldn't do this, you have to give specific reasons to why you can't do things. Like if you in essays, especially because essays are very important to all the colleges. That's like the most important thing they want to see because it shows them how you are as a person. And so if you tell them, you have family problems, you're helping your family every day, like I was, like helping your siblings, get ready for school, help them with their homework and their projects, then the colleges will see that and they'll be like, oh, while this person couldn't do much extracurricular activities, they were a really hard worker at home. It shows their character, which is basically what I did.
Outstanding. All right, so Jada, I'm going to go to you because we have a number of students who are athletes in our program, and rather than applying themselves, they're going through high school believing that they don't have to take ownership of the process, that they're simply going to be discovered. So talk a little bit about building your athletic resume and then showcasing yourself to coaches and being proactive in that process.
Right. So when it comes to getting recognized athletically in any sport, it's just more work on top of the academic work. When it comes to building your resume, for instance, I'm a track runner. So it was about each time you PR'd, put it on the resume. The great meets, put it on the resume. If you won an award, put it on the resume. Then it was about putting that all together, putting your videos together, putting each meet together, even if before high school, if it was that serious. And then it's about presenting another package. Aside from the academic package that you present to schools, there's an athletic package that you must present to coaches. And with so many athletes in the world, and because they're not just recruiting students or student athletes from the country, from the United States, they're recruiting students from outside the country. So it's really about presenting yourself as a student and an athlete. It really isn't all about, for instance, running, sprinting, being the best. It's really being the best in the classroom and on the track. And then presenting that package the best way you can, and then searching for the schools that actually meet you in a financial way, even if they don't meet you all the way in athletics, because getting a full scholarship from athletics is hard. It is hard. So yeah.
So then let me bring Sydney into the same conversation. Sydney, as a varsity athlete, as a basketball player, you and Jada, between you, there are 4 full scholarships that are already on the table. None of that money relates to athletics. So talk about how being an athlete, but taking your academics seriously and leadership and community service, developed a package that you presented to college.
Well, actually, when I was a freshman, I thought I was going to get a full ride for basketball. I thought I was going to go play somewhere and get discovered my sophomore year, but I actually ended up getting hurt at the end of my freshman year. So that's when I realized that I really needed to find a new trajectory and take things seriously when it came to academics. I already had good grades, but I knew that I was going to have to step it up to another level in order to be able to get the money that I needed. So I think one of the ways that I was able to use athletics as a way to showcase my leadership was to get a co-captain role, get a captain role my junior and senior year. And I really just use athletics as a means to say hey, this is an addition to what I've been doing to all these other things on my resume. I've also been handling these and handling my responsibilities in athletics while being able to take care of business and my academics and my other extracurriculars. So I really use basketball as a way to add on and say hey, these are things that I'm doing in addition to everything else that's on my plate, and be able to show that basketball was a way that I was handling responsibility and a way that I was really taking leadership and initiative in my community on top of the other things that I was doing.
Outstanding. So Jaylon, I'm going to start with you on this question, and then I want all of our other panelists to weigh in. You clearly have the test scores. A 33 on the ACT is not a score that many students in our program ever reach. As a matter of fact, in the history of our program, I believe we've only had 3 students to hit a 33 on the ACT. The problem, though, with many of the students who are working through the activities, when they work through the activity on test optional colleges, they are almost dismissive. Their narratives have been saying, well, test optional colleges are just for people who don't have good test scores. But I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to have a good test score. So I'm talking my way through it. While I'm using Jaylon as the example, Sydney, Jada, and Faith. Test scores is not what got you your full scholarship. So I'm going to start with Faith. Tell us how you got there without test scores.
Yeah, test scores are definitely not my thing. But
Okay, so this year we had the opportunity to have like test optional, but just because test optional, a lot of opportunities were test optional, meant that they were looking at everything else. So that it was actually kind of beneficial for me because like for me, everything else stood out. It was like my leadership and my grades and everything. So if you're looking for like a test optional school, it's very important to see that they're going to look at like everything else also heavily. Like you have to have something to back it up if you don't have your test scores. So yeah.
How would you weigh in on that question, Jada?
I definitely agree. I did not have the test scores at all. For anyone who doesn't have the test scores now, this is your sign of hope for the test optional schools. It is okay because I did not have those test scores at all. But I did have extracurriculars. I had leadership, I had honors and awards, I had the recommendations. I worked day and night on those essays, and it's really about just where you're work on where you're weak at. Okay, if your test scores aren't there, but if you're applying to a test optional school, get in those extracurriculars, get into those leadership positions, find ways to develop your talent, your gifts, make yourself shine in the best way you can, because those test scores, leave them out if you got to. Leave them out if you got to. Just make everything else better.
So Sydney, did you ever take the ACT or the SAT?
I did end up taking the SAT twice. I never took the ACT. It was like a mess because a lot of our tests got canceled. Like I think we had 4 tests that got canceled. So everything with like coronavirus going on really messed us up. But I would say I definitely agree with Faith and Jada. Like if your test scores aren't there, that means everything else has to be that much better. And another thing that the Wins really helped me with, like even though I didn't have like the best test scores, was that you have to package yourself. Like making yourself like this cohesive, perfect little package. Like even if you don't have the test scores, like that can be overlooked if you are really well packaged, I would say.
So then within that context, let me start this one with Jaylon. Um, talk to us about how the activities and the conversations with my wife and I helped you to develop your college list.
Well, it helped me a lot because at first, I picked all those big schools like Harvard, that everyone wants to go to, MIT. And then I realized that, most of those, they needed a lot of extracurricular activities. That's who they apply the most. And so I was looking like, yeah, this might not be the best fit for me. So with you guys, I applied, helping me out. I applied to schools that were more my fit, like University of Chicago and Tulane and Northeastern. And you guys especially helped me with the essays because those are probably one of the most important things that you can set, that you can show yourself with, show who you are as a person. It's essential to show yourself in a good way, to package yourself in a perfect way, so that these schools can see the benefit of accepting you.
So let me, before I go to the next panelist, expand on that notion of essays, because I'm looking at 4 faces on my screen, 4 different stories that came out through your essays. Jaylon and Faith are both Ghanaian, unique family units. Jada is Jamaican, and Sydney is a triplet. So I'm going to start with Faith. Talk about how you were able to tell a story and how different that story might have been from what a language arts teacher in the IB program would have guided you in telling.
Well, I would say that something that really helped me was like I think we had like an assignment called the My Story essay or something like that. And I believe that if I were to just give my language arts teacher, it would just be like, basic edits and about like grammar structure and stuff like that. But it's also about the story that I was able to craft. And that's what I was also like helped with, just trying to talk about my background and finding a way to include that in my story. And I honestly, initially, I wasn't thinking about even including about me being a Ghanaian American in it. But then
like when I did the My Story essay, it actually felt fit in really well for my personal essay that I did my comment out.
And Sydney, triplet, talk to us about your story.
So when I began writing my personal essay, I was really lost. I honestly didn't know what story that I wanted to tell, but eventually I was able to like work with the Winds and be able to talk about like how being a triplet has affected me and like the major like life events that have happened to me that like I wanted to really tell my story about, and we're really able to interweave them well to be able to show like how being a triplet has affected me through those life events.
Outstanding. And of course, Jada, a track athlete from Jamaica. Talk to us about the evolution of your story.
Yes, so to begin, like Faith said, we did start with the My Story essay. My Story essay was about 8 to 10 pages long. And it took me, I think we did that in June or July. It took me the whole month. And I remember I kept leaving stuff out. And I don't know how the Winds knew, but I was leaving stuff out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They put questions on my documents. Like, when was this? Who was that? So it started off with me just, I came from Jamaica when I was about 4. I couldn't speak proper English. And it really helps when they do this thing. They look over your essays and they can tell that you're missing stuff because you'll just jump right to the point instead of guiding it in. So in my point of view, from my story essay, I had the fact that I came from Jamaica. I was an athlete, a track runner. My dad was a track runner. I come from a low income family and I'm a public speaker. So I was tying all of that into my story essay. And then the way I presented it in my comment app was the best way for my package because it resulted well for my colleges.
Outstanding. My final question for this panel is this. Many of our students really struggle with understanding how everything is connected. Now that you're a senior on full scholarship, looking backwards, what are some of the connections that you now see clearer that were made as you went through doing the work? And I'll start with Faith.
Sorry, you said what were the connections that were made?
Yes. So here you are as a senior, you're going to college on full scholarship. What were some of the strongest connections? Was it the narratives? Was it being intentional in leadership and service? Was it developing a body of work that presented who you are? What were some of the strongest connections? Or even expanding your college list? What were some of the strongest connections that you can reflect on?
Honestly, I would say it's a little bit of everything, but mostly leadership and community service, because like talking about how you have impacted other people is definitely something that has reoccurred not only in like my college essays, but also like with the scholarship essays that I've had to write. It's all about how have you impacted other people, and that comes with doing leadership, that comes with actually doing community service. And I believe that looking at from the examples of people in the past, it inspired me to take initiative and assume leadership roles. And another thing is also expanding on your college list. A lot of people go into this thinking, oh, just Harvard and Princeton and just some research colleges, but it's so important to just stretch out and have many options. Like for me, I had research colleges, liberal arts colleges, HBCUs, and it gave just a very diverse, like many options. It just was helpful having many colleges and just some really limited amount of colleges.
Outstanding. Jaylon, what were the strongest connections for you?
Well, I kept saying this over and over, but the strongest connection was probably the essays, because at first I saw like the examples they put with all the sad stories. I was like, geez, my life's pretty boring compared to these people. Nothing that was as drastic as that. But even so, just saying who you are, just telling colleges who you are as a person, that can be the deciding factor between getting a full scholarship and just getting there, having to try to shell out all the money yourself. And also expanding college lists is important because, as Faith said, you want to go to Harvard and everything. And if they don't fit you, then you probably won't get accepted. And if you do, you're going to have to probably won't get any scholarships. So you're going to have to try to shell out a bunch of money for them.
Outstanding. All right, Sydney, I'm going to go with you next.
Okay, for me, the two biggest ones were definitely expanding your college list and like developing a body of work. Because when I first was working on my resume and trying to structure it and stuff, I didn't really understand oh, why do I have to have a point, or why do I have to have a point to my resume, or a focal point or whatever. And I think that was definitely what actually led to me expanding my college list, because when I first started my college list, I didn't have any HBCUs on there. And in the end, I ended up with 3 or 4, including A&T. And I think if I hadn't have worked on my resume and seen the connections of, hey, this is where my resume and my body of work matches up with this college, and this is why. So this is how I'm going to be able to get these scholarship opportunities, because the values that these colleges have is what is exemplified in my resume and my body of work. So
outstanding. Okay, Jada.
I think what was the biggest connection for me was understanding my body of work, because when I first came into the cohort, I was very versatile and I was involved in many things, when really I was an athlete. That was my number one image that I wanted to portray. And I had to understand that through the My Story essay, that's where I really learned how to connect everything. Showing the colleges that I got my persistence from trying to learn English in the first grade. I got my determination from track, and that's what made me who I am today as a student athlete. And that's the reason they understand why my resume is so long, and it isn't as versatile as it was when I first joined, because I learned how to connect my clubs and organizations to the person that I am and the image that I'm trying to portray to colleges as a package in general. And so basically just putting myself together in the best way I can to present myself to colleges was the best connection for me.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So look, I'm going to share my screen again. I want you all to stick around. We're going to take some questions after I make some additional connections for our parents. So here we go. You heard our panelists mention their resume. So there are 4 documents that are at the core of our program. There is the profile, which tells us everything that we need to know academically about a student. There's the narrative document, which is where students write and record their thoughts as they are working through the activities. And then there are the monthly presentations that the students develop from their narratives. And then there's the resume. A student's resume is the clearest predictor of potential college and scholarship opportunities. Many of the ASA Guidewright students, despite being involved in our program since September, still don't have complete profiles. They don't put a lot of effort into the narratives, and they submit their monthly presentations late. All of that can basically be seen in their resumes, which for too many students are still incomplete. What we're hoping is that if we listen to the students' voices from tonight, that we can come out of tonight focus on making sure that students are doing what they need to do. I want to take a moment and focus your attention on what our panelists just said. These students are not receiving full college scholarships because colleges feel sorry for them or because it's wishful thinking. It's because they were intentional as they came through our program in building their resume. Faith, who was just on our panel, this is her resume. This is why she's such a competitive candidate for the University of Chicago and for the Ron Brown Scholars Program and other scholarship programs. This is Sydney's resume. This is why she is so competitive. And there are 2 things that we could trace directly to why she was chosen as a Dowdy Scholar at A&T. She was intentional in building her resume. And as you just heard, she was able to articulate herself particularly well. So she did the things that she needed to do to position herself for these scholarship opportunities. This is Jaylon's resume. Jaylon's resume is the weakest of our 4 students. However, Jaylon has an ACT score in the 99th percentile nationally. That made him strongest academically. But the way that he was able to tell his story about his family during COVID, about being a big brother and tutoring his younger siblings, is that he was able to position himself and to maximize his body of work in an extraordinary way. The reason Jaylon's resume is so important is that no student should make an excuse and say, well, I don't have an opportunity to do this, or I don't have an opportunity to do that. You simply do the best that you can within the context of who you are and the available opportunities. And then this was Khalil's resume. Khalil, who's off to Xavier University on full scholarship and had an opportunity at least to be considered for the Dowdy and Cheatham White scholarships at North Carolina A&T. And this is Jada's resume. Again, Jada talked about how she was intentional in building her resume of service and leadership and awards. This doesn't just happen. This happens because someone is intentional in what they're attempting to do. And this was Tyra's resume. Again, Tyra joined our program in the 9th grade, and she went through high school, and she was focused on maximizing her opportunities. And again, while there was some disappointment in not getting to her top choice school, Tyra and one of our other students, Nia, will be beginning Georgia Tech, I believe in June, in their summer program. So to summarize all of this before we have an opportunity to respond to any questions or to hear from Mr. Lucas, is that the parents must understand that the monthly presentations are a core component of this program. Through those presentations, we gain insight into a student's work ethic, into whether or not students are taking the work seriously, into whether or not students are vested in planning their college and scholarship trajectories. And also, by reviewing students' presentations, we have insight into whether or not parents are even reviewing their students' work. You know, I'm a parent. I have 2 sons. I would be embarrassed for my sons to submit some of the work that we've seen during the first semester from other students. We can have insight into whether or not parents are vested in planning for paying for college and avoiding student loan debt. And overall, whether or not students and parents have realistic college aspirations. You heard Jaylon say that, yeah, students may say, I want to go here and I want to go there, but are those aspirations realistic if the work ethic doesn't follow along? So here are the important actions that we're hoping that we can encourage parents and students to take coming out of this meeting this evening, is that we need students to take the work seriously. And that means that we should no longer see the grammatical and punctuation and spelling errors in your work and lack of depth of thought. Parents, you have to review your students' monthly presentation because they have to be submitted by the last day of the month. And you should sign off on their presentations. We should no longer see presentations that don't reflect the work of a high school student. Parents and students have to read the monthly newsletter because that's where we announce what we're going to be doing every month. And then parents must understand that college planning is a shared process if students and parents are to avoid student loan debt. This is not something that your child does. This is something that the family does and that we do in our collaboration and partnership with ASA GuideWrite. And the important dates and deadlines are pretty simple. The cohort newsletter is released on the first day of every month. Even after it's been released, it's posted to our blog. The monthly meeting occurs on the second Saturday of every month. The final presentation is on the last day of the month, or the presentation deadline. So the presentation for March should be submitted by March 31st. The way that our program works is that on March 1st, the units open. On March 31st, we expect students to have done the work and submitted their presentation so that we can make small group assignments for the meeting on the second Saturday. Students who submit late or low quality presentations are not assigned to a discussion group. And we make that decision because we have volunteers who donate their Saturdays to facilitate the discussion groups. And then we have other students from all over the country. You heard Omar mention Kiera that he's collaborating with on a video. Kiera is a student in Lake City, South Carolina. You heard from Joshua. Joshua is in Maryville, Indiana. You heard from Josiah. He's in St. Petersburg, Florida. So we have students who are involved from all over the country. We have college students who are attending school all over the country who volunteer to be discussion group leaders. So we don't want to infringe on their time if your student doesn't take the work seriously. And then again, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to bring Mr. Lucas back. We will gladly engage any of our panelists in responding to questions from students or families. But the important announcement, the next meeting is on second Saturday, April 10th. Grades 9 and 10, they meet from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Grades 11 and 12, they meet from 11 a.m. to 12:30. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there you go, Mr. Lucas.
Okay. All right. Thanks again to the awesome panelists. Good work and good results. Really like your true stories. And what I liked about your stories is that they all didn't begin with you being perfect. It began with you being just like any other student. And over time, by doing the work and getting the advice of good people like the Wynns and your peers, you sharpen your work, and that's what happens. And there's a natural evolution. So my hat's off to all of you. What I'd like to do here with the time we have is to open this up and really, from our perspective, when I say our, on this call are also the coaches for Kappa League, for the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. We're all on here, and we have parents of the students on this call. They're on here, and we have students. So I did see some questions in the chat, but I want to make sure that we don't walk away from here without any of, any clarity that's not there or any questions, and no question is a bad question. The panelists are here, the Wynns are here, we're here. So let's just open this up for questions. And if any of the coaches have some comments, for sure, this is a good time. And so it's a good time to kind of share. So I'll go to the first question I saw, and that was, I believe, from Ms. Freeman. Let's see.
Yes, Doug, I opened her mic so she can present.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, I have my son who's a sophomore and my daughter who's a senior. And we were curious about what you guys are seeing about acceptance rates and competitiveness this year and the implications for my son in 10th grade.
This year is the most competitive ever. NYU received over 100,000 applications. The challenge that students have now is that because of COVID-19, more colleges have gone test optional, which means that more students have applied to those schools. As the sheer volume of applications have increased at those schools, and because they're test optional, then when you take out test scores, now you're focusing on everything else, which relates to a student's entire body of work. Within that context, the racial balance at schools still pretty much remains the same. So while NYU may receive 100,000 applications, the percentage of students of color, the percentage of women is still going to remain relatively the same within their freshman class. So it's incredibly more competitive. I believe that what our students said on the panel particularly relates to your son, who's in the 10th grade, is that his body of work has to be developed by the end of his junior year, because he will be applying to colleges before he has grades in senior year. So that body of work is important to be in place. Another point that our students made that's really relevant to your son particularly is that they said that they spent the summer working on their essays, which means that you have to have your body of work by June, so that as you're writing your essays in the summer, you're reflecting backwards at what you've already done, and you're presenting that to colleges. Leadership is critically important. Community service is critically important. But also what was clear with all of our students, particularly our full scholarship students, is that they chose the application cycle that they were best positioned for. Of all the students that we had this year, well, who were on the panel, Tyra chose early decision at Rice, although she was not offered admission to Rice. But both Faith and Jaylon chose early decision at the University of Chicago, and they were both offered admission there. So speaking in regard to your 10th grader, he has to start to do leadership and service, and it should be aligned. So whatever he says he wants to do, the leadership and service should be related to what he says he wants to do. And that's what all of our students was able to show. Faith at University of Chicago was able to show her commitment to social and civic advocacy and justice. She had a podcast. She was involved in Marietta High School as a mentor, and she was involved in the student court for Sydney. She was able to present herself as a stellar academic student who was involved in leadership and service and varsity sports. Jada was able to do the same thing. So that's an important context for him to keep in mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to ask the panelists, when it comes to their essays and their narratives, how did they improve those? Was it something that just happened, or was it a monthly assignment or a monthly development that took place over time? Because I know in the program, Mychal mentioned that presentations are due this 31st of March. And so to me, that seems like an opportunity to present, to improve on your body of work as it relates to your essays and narratives. Did you go through that process on a constant basis? And how did you make that happen?
Let me ask Faith.
Well, just a minute. I need the panelists, when you respond to this question, I need for you to really be honest about these essays, what was required, all the text messaging that we did back and forth in awareness to keep you on track on a timely process so we weren't overwhelmed.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Faith to respond first, because the University of Chicago not only requires a common application essay, but there are many supplements that had to be written as well. And we went back and forth, and she was texting my wife late and texting her early, and there were changes in language, and there were pieces that were pulled out. Talk about the totality of that process.
Okay, so when it comes to, so first of all, with the narrative essays, I really say that actually doing them and doing them well definitely prepares you to be able to maybe look at an experience you have and kind of analyze it, which is important to like when you're actually applying to college and have to do this college essays. I would say that the college essays were like, definitely for this year, it was the most important, like one of the most important parts in everything. And for me, when I started off, it was not it. Like the essays, you can definitely see the growth. And I would say the most important thing is time, time, and time, time, time. If you want to go into like a more competitive college, you need to put in more time because like again, for me, I had to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth just to because especially for UChicago, we have like these really weird prompts. So it was so important putting in that time.
So I want you to respond next because I want you to speak to the challenges of just not having the thinking to respond to some of these prompts and how crippling that is when you're trying to respond to these prompts, work a job, and do all the other stuff that's going on in life.
Yeah. So, my essays process was really, really difficult. That was probably the most challenging thing that I went through. Just finding the time to like make time to manage all that. So I did mostly early applications to majority of my schools, if not all of them. Really just going through that because each school will have their own prompts, and especially for Rice, they ask questions that are really specific to the school. And in order to create those really good essays that connected with those admissions officers, it really required the time. And to be honest, some of the essays, I did not take enough time to craft those essays. So I feel like just making sure that, when you go into that process, that you set up enough time catered toward each thing and write down the deadlines and go back and constantly go through that and check that will really help you.
So Sydney, your essay writing was a challenge to say the least, because we're dealing with three different personalities in your household. I know we got through with one of your sisters. I don't think we ever finished the essay writing with Tristan. So talk to us about your challenge in just going through that process.
Yeah, I definitely started my essay late. I had a lot of stuff going on. Like I did not know what I wanted to write about. Like there was a lot of different people who were like, throwing different things at me. But I think eventually we were able to like kind of get a cohesive story. And then once I sent it to you guys and you guys reviewed it and like sent your comments back, then I was really like, okay, all I need to do is just like revise, revise, revise. And I had to work on it a lot, like especially with my parents and with you guys, just combing through it, reading it over and over again, making sure that like everything was perfect until I finally got like a good cohesive story at the end.
So Doug, before I turn it back to you, I think that what we're hearing from these students and what's important to all the students in the program is that the writing that you need to do for your college essays is not a skill that develops overnight. That all of the narrative writing that they're doing, that for a student in the program who's for example, Sydney started as a 10th grader. So writing all of the narratives at least moved us to a point to where we had something to work with as a high school senior. So while it was difficult to identify the story, the ability to write had been developed over a period of time, which is very different from the writing that's taught in school. Would you agree, Sydney?
Yes, and I think that the narratives also were really good at helping you like convey your intentions and convey your plan. Like I know that when I was writing my essays for A&T, like all the questions like why do you want to go to A&T? Like why do you want to do this? I would not have been able to do that if it hadn't been for the narratives asking me those exact same questions.
Outstanding. Okay, Doug.
Excellent. I have another question, but after that question, I'm sure that some of our students and parents, you have questions, please ask those now because this session was set up to really cater to us to make sure that any question and clarity, support can be provided is dealt with on this particular call. So please let's let it happen. And the reason why I say that, and I'll just this is a family. It's a trusted family. We have a few good success stories, and that's in our students where the light bulb since September has come on. And that's what we're looking for. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to be perfect, but also we have students who have not turned in presentations, or when they've turned in presentations. The presentations have not been filtered through parents, through the coaches, and really just don't show an effort. And so what we're attempting to do here is tackle why is that? And let's deal with that. Now the question I have following that point is for the athletes, because we have athletes in our program as well. And I know it's a heavy schedule for all the athletes, plus your academic work, plus your things you do at home, and plus your extracurricular activities. But somehow you show up for cohort. You show up on the monthly meetings, and apparently you're doing the work. How do you make that happen? Because many cases, what I hear, athletes saying, "Hey, I have an event, and that's it, and the work doesn't get done, nothing gets done, and it's just that event." Well, how do you make it happen for the athletes?
Jada? Is Jada still, there you go.
Yes, I am.
So as you respond to this question, even talk about exchanging text messages with my wife from a track meet.
Oh, yes. As an athlete and being in this cohort and being a student athlete in general, it's as an athlete alone, it's a little bit more, it calls for more discipline and more persistence. I remember it was the second Saturday and I had a meet and I think I brought my computer with me to the meet. And I'm sitting there listening, taking notes because the college students were here and they were speaking to us. I'm taking notes, but they're calling for my event. So I'm trying to take notes while running to warm up for my 200. And it calls for more from a student athlete. And you got to realize that the hustle is just a little bit different from students and student athletes. So you have to put in a little bit more work in training, of course, but you have to put in more work in your books because coaches, I'm sure all athletes already know this, coaches don't just want you for your skills, they want you for your brain too. It's true that students with a 4.0 in good times are going to get chosen than the student with a little bit better of a time but failing grades. It's very true. It's calls for more commitment from yourself as academically so much. Like the fact that I had extracurriculars and the fact that my GPA was great, it caused me to get more offers than I would have expected. So that's a lot I have to say. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Other questions? Parents, students, coaches?
If they don't have any questions, Doug, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again because I'm gonna provide an example. I didn't know if I was gonna have time, but since I do, I will. I want the parents to see what a high quality presentation looks like. Now, this is just an overview of a module. This is from Josiah, our 8th grader, where he writes, the module had pretty straightforward directions requiring the research and understanding of different aspects of colleges, like honors colleges, liberal arts colleges, research universities, and dual degree programs. This module allowed me a deeper look into multiple types of colleges that I didn't even know existed before completing this module. Thanks to this module, I was able to make much better decisions regarding my academic future and the activities that I would choose to pursue in the future. Again, this is an 8th grader. Okay, so this is Bryce. Bryce is a 9th grader. Throughout this module, I have reviewed different types of colleges and programs. I learned about liberal arts colleges, research universities, honors colleges, cooperative education programs, dual degree programs, and test optional colleges. Expanding my understanding of the different types of colleges and programs helped me to better understand the types of programs and opportunities offered at my top choices, such as North Carolina A&T and Alabama A&T, etc. All right, so you've seen the overview. This is just one slide in the presentation from an 8th grader and a 9th grader. This is what we got from an 11th grader. an ASA Guide Right 11th grader. Overview of the module. This module deepened knowledge about the different colleges there are out there for me to attend, such as liberal arts schools, research universities, honors colleges, and many others. This is not the work that should be submitted by an 11th grader who takes pride in his work and is intentional on planning to go to college. This is the point that we're trying to make tonight. That if this was my son, and I reviewed this, I would send him back to his room and I say, look, no video games, no cell phone. You're not doing anything until you do this work and you do it properly. So that's the point, is that this is a partnership, and this partnership requires that we work together. Us, parents, students, and coaches. We should not see that type of work if I'm getting high quality work from an 8th grader, I should not receive work from an 11th grader that looks like it's being submitted by an elementary school student. Not when that 11th grader says, I'm planning to go to college. That's the point. If we could get everyone to make that commitment, that we're going to push these young people to do better, we're going to have more success stories. And the other point I want to make, and I think it's been crystal clear with our students, that if you're writing like that for our program, see, I don't buy into this excuse that students make, well, I don't have time for the cohort. Look, a skill is a skill. If you don't have the writing skills for the simple narratives in our program, then you won't have the writing skills to write college essays when that time comes. The other thing is this, and this is important for everyone to understand, which is why I started with the 2 books that I started. I'm up to 28 books now, but I started with 2 because of this point. Many of the schools are not looking out for our children, and particularly our boys. That in order for a student to submit work like that to us, if we don't say anything, we're signaling that student that that's okay. I guarantee you that student didn't just submit low quality work to us. That student is submitting low quality work every day in school, and teachers are either looking the other way or they are making assumptions that parents don't care. That's the reality. One point that our students didn't make tonight that really is important is that many of our panelists had the opportunity to attend college in Georgia. And they recognize that even with the Hope or the Zell Miller Scholarship, their parents are going to take out $18,000 in student loans every year, or they were going to go into their bank account to pay for books, room and board, books and fees at UGA or Georgia Tech. These students are pursuing their scholarship opportunities. And another point that didn't come out, with Jaylon, he's going to University of Chicago on full scholarship. So now his parents don't have to worry about the other 2 siblings that are coming up behind him. And Sydney is going to North Carolina A&T on full scholarship. She's a triplet. So her parents, now they can mark off 1. That's 1 on full scholarship. Her sister's going to Wesleyan University on a full need-based scholarship. So now parents only have to worry about 1. We want everyone thinking about this process because this is a huge amount of money. We heard one parent say to us the other day on the phone that we did a presentation a few months ago where I put up cars that were basically the equivalent of these scholarships. And one car that I put up, the scholarship at A&T, is valued at over $130,000, and you can buy yourself a Porsche 911 with that money. That parent said to us, and her daughter has received a full scholarship to A&T. She said, there's that Porsche. That's money I'm not going to have to pay because she said, praise God, she's going to school on full scholarship. So that's 1 Porsche I won't be buying for college.
Mychal, that's a good point you brought up, and I have to reinforce it with my 3 daughters who actually ran the cohort program. Each of them, none of them went to Georgia schools because the Georgia schools just did not offer them the right opportunity, and in terms of scholarships, they wouldn't have gotten the scholarships. All three got full scholarships. One went to North Carolina INT, full scholarship. One went to Ohio University, full scholarship. One went to Drexel University, full scholarship. The reason why I say that is because it just didn't happen overnight. These panelists that spoke, I know the nights and days their parents and they have put in. And so when we had three students that actually got full scholarships, what we said within our chapter was to say, listen, what can we do? What exists out there that can create a pathway for students who might not have the right direction, support, or content to get to a full scholarship or a good opportunity in terms of college planning. And so therefore came the cohort program connected with ASA Guide Right, because I've seen a lot of them, but there's not a lot of programs out there, definitely not one like the cohort program that really has a strong interest in African-American women, African-American males, and really can connect as to their stories and their journey. So I say all that to say, with our students and parents, it's a couple of things, some golden nuggets that I know. It's a team sport. Parents and the students have to be involved. Now, we do have some cases where the parents can't be involved for circumstances, extreme circumstances. Well, that's where you have the coaches, you have the Wynn's to support. So that's not even an excuse for a student not to get the right direction that they need, because they have the support in this program. The modules actually are a stair-stepping approach from ninth grade, 10th grade, where you're actually building blocks on top of each other, where a student evolves over time and educates themselves on what it takes to have a full college plan. And then you go through that process and you look at yourself, your gifts, and you tweak your gifts to the opportunities that exist. So actually, you tweak your activities to the gifts you have. So the thing that really stands out to me, each one of these students talked about their gifts, what they love to do, and then they went out and found activities to help build on that gift.
So, Mr. Lucas, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think Mr. Bird wanted to hear a student comment on just what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I've opened his mic so he can go ahead and present the question.
Thank you, Mrs. Wynn. Well, thank you to Mr. Wynn and young Michael David as well for putting this excellent panel together for us. My question to really any of the panelists is about motivation. Looking at the resumes briefly, it appears that all of you are very, very busy, yet you found time to excel in multiple lines of activity, grades, extracurricular, sports, leadership, whatever it is. And then you've still done the cohort program and excelled at that to the point where you're looking at full tuition paid scholarships, full rides. What is it? What is the that motivates you to do the work in this program to complement the rest of the body of work that you're actually presenting to us today and to colleges as you've gone through the college application process?
Any of our panelists can jump in.
I'll say I'm a first generation student. So that really mentally, that pushed me to do the work to make it happen. I say there's a various amount of things that kind of can push me, but that's like one of the first. That's the first about that I'm first generation and neither of my parents went to college. I also, a part of my story is that when I first came to the United States, I couldn't speak English and I was placed into special education when I knew I shouldn't have been there. It was just because I couldn't speak proper English. And that doubt at a young age, it motivated me as I got older that I am capable of being with the other students, with the AP students. I'm capable of getting the same grades as the other students around me. And another thing that pushed me is when I first got into this cohort and Mr. Wynn, he'll show the students, he'll present the students to us that are very successful throughout the program. And then I'll look at the students around me because when we used to meet face to face, I had the class of 2021, we all sit together at the senior table. And for instance, Faith has a great GPA. Faith had this long extracurricular. We had Chandler. Chandler was in our group too. Chandler was very successful in like everything in high school. And I had my little 4.0 in track and field. And I was like, everybody over here doing better than me. Like, you got to get a little competitive sometimes. Like how it is in sports, like you can't beat me. Like, I mean, Faith, you're great. I love you, great. But like, you got to, like, everybody can't beat you. Like, you got to just have that competitiveness. But I say those things are really what pushes me. First generation, where I started, and just the competitive spirit I have.
Outstanding. And I also, I don't know if you know, but Chandler, who wasn't in our program this year, is at Brown. So he did get into the Ivy League. So, you know, what you say is really important, that you were surrounded by students with similar goals and aspirations, and that in itself is motivating. Sydney or Jaylon, or would anyone else like to respond to that question?
Yeah, I can chime in. Sorry, Faith, you can go.
No, go.
Okay. Well, I think that my biggest motivator, it has to definitely be my family. I always knew, like, from a young age that we were going to need a lot of help because, like, I knew college was expensive. I knew that it was going to be difficult for us. But like growing as I got older and I really started to come to terms with like just how much that college actually costs, like I was like, yeah, there's no way. Like my parents have done so much for me and they sacrificed so much for me. Like I have to do something that's gonna like, you know, like not only pay off for all the work that I've done like in middle school and like in high school, but I have to do something for them to like kind of like show them my appreciation in a way, like show them like that I've been like listening and like working all this time and like, so that was one of the biggest things I think that motivated me. Like definitely like my family, my mom especially, like knowing that I had to do something to like make it easier for them.
So tell us about that moment when you got word from A&T.
So so I was in the car actually, like my mom wasn't with me, but I got the email when I was in the car with my sister and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to open this without mom here. Like I want to wait till I get home to open it. And then I was like, no, I can't wait anymore. Like I have to open it. So I opened it and I was like, oh, I got it. I got the scholarship. And I called her and we were both crying on the phone and it was like a mess. And I called my dad and he was crying and it was like, he was like, yeah, I got to go tell everybody, I got to go tell the whole family. So yeah, it was amazing. It was like such a good feeling, such a good moment just to know that like all the work that we had done and that all the stuff that she had helped me with and like that we've been stressing over it, like it all like paid off.
Outstanding. All right, Faith, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I love what Jada was saying because it's literally so true that when you're in an environment of people who all have goals of going to higher education and just having those goals, you do get a little bit competitive. You see what people are doing, and you also want to be in the position where you can get into great colleges as well. Something that also pushed me is sometimes the videos that we would see in the cohort, like we see videos of people getting like rejected or just, it honestly motivated me to be like, oh, this is actually competitive. It's not like it's actually competitive. So that was another motivating factor. Another thing is just knowing like my background and just wanting to make my parents proud is another thing. And also just the goals I've set for myself. That was something that motivated me to just keep on pushing and just know what I want to do at the end of the day.
So tell us about your moment.
I would honestly say it was really, I think one of the moments was one of those like
No. I'm sorry. the moment that you got notification from the University of Chicago.
Oh, the moment I got notification. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My reaction was literally crazy. I was crying. My parents were crying. It was just like all that hard work actually came, all that hard work paid off. And it was the school that I wanted to go to.
All right, outstanding. Okay, Tyra, you gonna answer that question as well?
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that. I think mine was a little bit different in a way because me personally, I deal with depression, so that's kind of something that like it'll be like I'm at a great point, but then sometimes it can just pivot, and that was kind of what I dealt with within my ninth grade year. But then I participated in a program, the Harvard Debate Council Diversity Project, and honestly, that was like a life-changing experience that I got through by reading a news letter that Mr. Wynn sent out. And in that newsletter, that's where he talked about the program. And then I went into the program. And when we matriculated into Harvard, we were the only 25 Black people on campus. So we went into that, we went into the debates, and it was just honestly eye-opening to see so many people's different access to the education that we didn't have. And honestly, it angered me to the point because I was like, why don't I know this? Why didn't anyone teach me this? So it kind of inspired me that when I went back to Atlanta, I was determined to make sure that like not only I learned it, but that my peers learned it, and to really just take that knowledge that I gained and to make sure I use that to my advantage.
Outstanding. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bird, do you have another question? I saw something come in the chat.
Mr. Wynn,
Yes.
it's 7:52, and I don't want to keep parents too much longer. And they're more than welcome. We can go on, but we do have Clarence Burge. I believe he's asked his question, but Hayward Richardson has a question.
Yes.
Clarence, did we cover your question completely?
Yes.
Okay, so then now we have one from Hayward, and then we have another one from Brian Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, and my question is for parents. Are there some things what additional things do you or your students need from us as coaches to help them to prepare and present quality presentations, have quality narratives, and to do those on time? One of the things that we try to do is to keep tabs and keep reminding them to get the presentations done in a timely fashion. And in doing so, we ask that they have the presentation submitted to you as a parent and to us no later than the 25th of the month, so that we will have time to take a look at them, read them over, make suggestions so that they can make corrections prior to the time that they submit them to the WINS, to the CPC website. So if there's some additional things that we can do to assist, please let us know. We go through and correct grammar sometimes. At least for me, I don't correct them on the presentation, but in a separate email, I will say, did you take a look at this? Capitalization, indicate what line they need to take a look at, what sentence they need to. And then for some of them, they still submit the final work without incorporating the things that were suggested. So are there other things that as coaches, you would like for us to do in order to assist?
And that's for any of the Guide Right parents on the call. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is put that question, put that question as well, Brother Hayward, Brother Richardson, in a question to all the parents after this as well, to see kind of in a survey kind of scenario, to see if we get any feedback from all the parents from that perspective. But if anyone on the call can answer that, or I have any feedback for Brother Richardson, please do so now.
Or they can put it, they can go ahead and put it in the chat. That'll be fine.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Mr. Thomas, you can go ahead and present yours. He has a question for the panelists.
Yes, we talked a lot about the importance of writing and how it's very important when completing these college applications. And a lot of you mentioned that it was challenging at first. So my question is around what are some of the tools and resources that you use to improve your writing skills as you progressed through the cohort program?
Any of our panelists can jump in. I take it everyone is reaching for their microphone.
Maybe.
Okay, I'll talk on that. First off, I
Okay,
want to
so
say
let me say one thing. Hold on, Tyra, before
Mhm.
Tyra speaks. Now, this is a common problem. This is such a wonderful example because this is a common problem. The students who are progressing the best, who are asserted themselves, they're female. Every time you ask a question, the women are quick with their microphone and they have input and they want to engage. And we have to reach a point where our young men understand that they have to assert themselves in a similar fashion because it's that assertiveness that is revealed in the interviewing process. These scholarships that these young women have received, the colleges weren't just throwing them away. We had 6 students interview for the scholarship at A&T, and 3 of them were awarded for scholarships, and all 3 were female. So, having said that, go ahead, Miss Tyra Grant.
okay. Yeah, to that question, the main thing that I used was Mr. and Mrs. Wynn and just like teachers, like, but not even like once they make the edits, not just saying, okay, they made the corrections, but it's like just taking the time to understand why the comma goes here instead of there, why the wording was bad, why I should have rephrased this sentence, just taking the time to understand that because going through that process, it kind of just helped me later on in my essays to remember, okay, I did this the last time. This is what I need to fix this time.
Outstanding. And Jada, you about to respond? Oh, Sydney, Jada, whoever. Keep it
I'll
moving. Go ahead, Jada.
I'll say definitely writing in the work that we do every month, the narratives we do, that definitely helps. Every month, just developing more, writing more, giving everything that's on your mind, just formulating the best way you can. And when you're corrected, you just remember those certain skills that were pointed out. And when I was doing my essay, I actually worked with Mr. Mychal David Wynn on my North Carolina A&T essay, and I really got a lot of pointers from that essay that I carry right now into my high school writing and college in the future.
So let me comment on that in terms of a tremendous resource that the students have access to. Mychal David graduated from Amherst as an English major. So his vocabulary is much more expansive than my vocabulary. So whenever I want to write something, I send it to him. So the way that our process works is that when I review essays, I review the essays for the story. What's the story that we should be telling? And then Mychal David makes sure that the grammar and the language and the punctuation is correct. So that, and when we're looking at writing, we really have 2 areas. We have artistic and technical. The artistic is telling a story, and the technical is using the correct language and language patterns and pronunciation. Okay, Sydney, you were going to respond to that question?
Yes, I would say not only like using your resources, like for example, I use the wins and like my parents, but I also talked to the group leader who was over our group for like our small group. And I think that also like working and reworking like until you get it to that perfect point. Like I reworked my essay like at least like 4 or 5 times before I sent it to the wins. And then when they sent it to me, I worked again on it after that. And so I think like you just have to be determined to like improve and be determined to like be better with everything that you put on paper.
Okay, so talk about, you made a point. Expand on that point. A willingness to accept constructive criticism.
Yeah, that's really important because I feel like you can't look at it like, oh, they think my writing is bad, like, oh, they think that this isn't good. Like whenever you get constructive criticism, you just have to like take it to heart and really focus on like, hey, this is something that I'm weak in, and adding this or like changing this is going to make it that much better. And so not really focusing on constructive criticism as like a bad thing, but more so seeing it as like, this is something that's going to put me further and make my work that much better.
Outstanding. Faith, I need a comment from you. And I want you to comment within this context. You're in an IB program, so you're in the most rigorous academic program in a secondary school in the United States. So talk about how deeply we went into your writing to bring out the story, and how easy it is to respond to questions without actually responding to the prompt.
Yes. So I think that definitely the IB program has prepared me to be able to write a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a difference between writing a lot and writing with the best type of quality. And I think that when I was able to work with the Wynns on my essay, it wasn't necessarily just them, like after I sent them something and they gave me my feedback, I also had to put in the work after that. It wasn't just like oh, the feedback, then your essay is done. It's like, oh, they gave you the feedback, now reread your essay and like try to connect pieces, try to connect the dots. That's why I for my essays, I had so many drafts, I can't even remember. But the thing about it is that it was getting better over time because we were having a collaboration. It wasn't just they're feeding me my essay. And so that was important as well. And what was the second question?
Just about the process of how easy it is, even as a good writer, to miss effectively responding to a writing prompt.
Yes, I actually did that with, I think there was like one of the first scholarships I was applying to, I literally wrote an essay and it had nothing to do with the prompt. And I think it was very important that if you send your essays to the Wynns, they're able to like see whether your essay is going in the right way, if the essay is actually addressing the prompt. And that's actually really important, that you want your essay to go into like what they're looking for. So I think that was really,
I think, Doug, I think the key.
Mr. Wynn, excuse me. Faith, can I just ask you one question to respond to? You may not have it in front of you, and I know Jaylon probably received similar. Please share that the colleges look at your essays and the personal note that you received from the school and what the school said.
yes. So with UChicago, after your admissions, the admissions counselor personally writes you a note. And I've actually seen some of the notes from my peers who are also in the class of 2025. And some of them were just like, oh, have a happy New Year's, because it was December time. Have a happy New Year's. And oh, we're so glad that you're in here. But my admissions officer actually talked about my essay and how she enjoyed reading my application and reading my unique essay. So.
Outstanding, outstanding. Ms. Lewis, I think the takeaway from what the students are saying is that students have to be open to constructive criticism. That's just one part. They have to respond to the criticism and then make the corrections. If they do that starting in the 9th grade, by 12th grade, they're going to be accomplished writers. But if they look at the work as something they're doing in addition to school, they're going to miss out that the work that they're doing in our program is oftentimes developing a skill set that's much better than what they're developing in school. Many of our students a lot of the work that they do in school is multiple choice. Go read this and then fill in the boxes, whereas our work is narrative writing, and it's that way for a reason, because we need them to think deeply, and we need them to research, and we need them to be able to articulate themselves. And that's the purpose of the monthly meetings, that they're in a group with other students where they're having these robust conversations, but they can't participate if they didn't do the work. They don't have anything to bring to the table.
One last comment I want to make is that I want the parents and the students that are participating today. You do not have to be a 4.0 student. You don't have to be a 3.0 student. There is a college pathway for every single student. We will meet you wherever you are and guide you and help you. There are a lot of schools that students will start off at a community college. Many of them don't want to, but when we create a plan and when we look at the transfer agreement plans that puts that student on a full ride for the last 2 years, and if they can go to school free the first 2 years, it's a win-win situation, but it prepares them to do that level work at the college. The worst thing students could do is enter into a 4-year university not prepared, all the money that you had to pay the first year, and the student fails. And he just is then at that point dismissed from the school, either by choice or not by choice. So we don't want that to happen. So our program is designed to help build certain skills, motivate, encourage them, but meet them where they are. They may not be able to take the AP classes, but maybe they can take the honors classes. Maybe it's looking at the 4-year schedule, whatever grade they're in, and talking to the Wynns. We set up and we sent it out in the newsletter, informing every single person and every single participant in the college planning cohort. We will have assessment meetings with the student and the parent to help them understand where your student is, what do they need to do differently. And we're going to have honest conversations with your student. A lot of these young men have a lot of potential, and I see it, and I know they do. But it's just sometimes it takes them a little bit longer because males do, they mature a little bit, take a little bit longer than women. But there is a formula that we can put in place to help guide them. So you don't want to overwhelm them where you burn them out, but yet there is a strategy in how we move them along the way. So I just
let me comment on that point of what my wife is saying. We have not had very many guide-right students and parents contact us for that assessment. I believe, if I'm not wrong, that we announced that back in December or certainly in January. We said that we would do an assessment that with any family that was interested in the assessment when students completed the January module, which was the mid-year assessment. And we simply have not been contacted by guide-right students and parents to do that assessment. The students who were on tonight on the panel, for many of them, they have made course corrections as a result of that assessment in terms of identifying additional activities or identifying additional leadership roles. Those course corrections are critically important for students who are 10th and 11th graders.
Thanks for bringing that up, Mychal. I mean, that's essential because the consultations, I call them, are ones where you can get the insights from experts that really can be pivotal to at least advancing and changing on things that need to be changed or updated or improved. So to all the parents and students out there, I'm glad that Mychal brought it up because it's an opportunity that's there. Please take advantage of it. I want to take this time to just quickly say thank you to all the panelists. You guys are just awesome. And thank you to Mychal and Nina and Michael David as well for the opportunity tonight. This for us is what we're hoping to be a jump start for all of our students and all of our parents to recommit to the process, and for the parents and students who are already engaged, let's take it to another level. What we're going to do as coaches, so you'll know, is we're going to look at this at this point, April and May, to see what we want to see is a huge improvement on the presentations that come forth in April, April 10th. Those presentations are due the 31st. And as Brother Richardson said, we as coaches like to see those by the 25th of this month. after you've reviewed them. So if it goes through you, the parent, and then it goes through us, the coaches, and then it goes through the Wynn's, then I think we'll have a very good presentation, and the student that get good feedback. So that's the process. We'll use April and May to see who's really committed to the process and the program. And as we go forward in deciding who's going to be in the program next year, we really have to look at that very hard to see, because this is an activity-based program. And if you're not doing the activities, then unfortunately it's not good, because it doesn't benefit you. And that's not what we want to do. So we have to kind of figure out a solution. But I hope that what you heard tonight will be a good soundboard in terms of jump-starting a new commitment to what needs to be done. You got all the support. If you have any other questions for me or the coaches, let us know. If you have any questions for the Wynn's, you can easily email them directly, for sure. So if any other questions, or if that's it, I think we got it covered at this point. What I'd like to do is, Brother Glenn, are you still on the call?
I am. Thank you. I can unmute. Very good. You want me to pray us out?
Yes. Now, and Michael, is there anything else?
No, sir. It covers everything. I just want to say thank you to all my panelists, and I want to make this point for all the panelists, is that the students who receive the best benefit from our program are the students who have the spirit of service. That when we do an outreach and we ask students if they can appear on our panel, whether they're currently in college, in graduate school, or high school seniors or eighth graders, that they're there. They're leaders, and they embrace this idea of community service. So my wife and I are just incredibly proud of them, and they are deserving of all the opportunities that they have.
I do have one last comment, is for students and parents, make sure that your student has entered your email address to forward to you, so that when they share their documents, you get a copy of it. A lot of them, when I check their documents, they do not have their parent name in there. So that is real critical. It keeps you in the loop of everything, and you'll see those presentation notifications come through. But students know how to do that. They were instructed to do it. So that's another way that we need to make sure that that loop is a little bit closed, so that we can have that success and parents are aware when they're submitting their documents.
Outstanding.
Amen. If all hearts and minds are clear, let us just go for a final closing prayer. And I just wanted to read from Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Father God, we just come to you tonight, thanking you for this program, thanking you for the Wynn's, thanking you for coaches, thanking you for parents, thanking you for students, for you have plans for them. And Father God, we're just grateful to be a part of helping your plan come to fruition. Now, oh God, bless these young people in a mighty way. Thank you for those who appeared on the panel, oh God. Bless them in a mighty way as they go off to college. Be with them and guide them. Let their outstanding work continue. And for our high school students, that you would bless them, oh God, that they would begin to see and begin to understand what you want to do with their lives, and that this is an avenue to help them. Now, God, we ask that as we leave this place, we never depart from your loving grace. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Amen.
Have a
All
good
right.
evening.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Netta.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Omar. Thank you, Jaylon. Thank you, Brian.